Good evening and welcome. This is the government news brief for Wednesday, June 1, 2016. In the news this evening, the Bank of Guyana governor says Guyana's financial system healthy, President Granger to attend high-level summit in Cuba, and sports to be reintegrated into the school's curriculum. I am Azim Khan. Stay tuned for the details of these and other stories. Thank you for staying with us. This is the government news brief. Here now are the details. Guyana's financial system is quite healthy, says Central Bank Governor Dr. Gobind Ganga. Here is that report.
The country's financial system is in a healthy state despite claims of sluggishness by some, says Governor of the Central Bank, Dr. Gobind Ganga.
The financial system is quite healthy, sufficiently capitalized, sound from the perspective of liquidity and also in terms of their profitability. You would have seen that many of them would have published their profits for the end of year and even for some for the half year, given their financial year. But basically, we have seen an economy with very sound macroeconomic indicators, good confidence in the system to move forward.
The governor says there has been a reduction in inflation for the first quarter of 2016, while the exchange rate remains stable.
Inflation has really been constrained. It is now deflation. Our estimate is about 0.5% deflation for the first quarter. On the external side, we are seeing a net purchase of foreign exchange in the tune of just over 25 million US. That has resulted in a very relatively unchanged exchange rate, which is about 206.50 official exchange rate.
According to Dr. Ganga, the country's foreign exchange reserve and indebtedness have both shown improvement over that of 2015.
Our exchange in terms of reserve would have increased from 598 million at the end of 2015 to about 619 million at the end of March 2016. Central government, we are seeing some improvement in terms of the overall balance. We have seen a marginal decline in external debt and a marginal increase in domestic debt. Domestic debt is largely for the absorption of or serialization of liquidity in the financial system. So it is not really a debt per se.
Minister of Finance Winston Jordan says these are good signs. He expects further improvements, with Guyana's 50th anniversary celebrations being an impetus for economic growth.
I think you must have been overwhelmed with the arrivals for our 50th anniversary, and the 300 million obviously then was money is well spent. All right, I think most of the people are smiling. Most of the discos and the hotels and so on are obviously smiling. And this is what we predicted, and I'm happy that it's beyond our prediction at the moment.
The hospitality and tourism sectors were also boosted, with several thousand visitors and overseas-based Guyanese participating in Guyana's 50th anniversary celebrations. For Government News Brief, Kidaki, Amsterdam.
His Excellency President David Granger and Minister of Foreign Affairs Kyle Greenidge will represent Guyana at the 7th Summit of the Heads of State, Government of Association of the Caribbean States, ACS, under the theme Together for a Sustainable Caribbean on June 4, 2016 in Havana, Cuba. The summit will focus on the protection and preservation of the Caribbean Sea, in addition to the appointment of a new Secretary General, who will head the ACS for the next 4 years. The Foreign Affairs Minister says the presence of Guyana's senior-ranking officials in Cuba is a demonstration of a strong, matured, sustained diplomatic relations the two countries have shared over the years, especially in the field of health and human resource development. Guyana, together with Trinidad and Tobago and Barbados and Jamaica, were instrumental in working for the normalization of relations since 1970 against the Cuban embargo. The National Art Gallery gets a sculpture dedicated to Guyana's 50th independence anniversary. Here is that report.
Castellani House added to their collection the sculpture, a contribution from the Guyana Public Service Cooperative Credit Union Limited.
The back comforts and motion.
Sculpted by Winslow Craig out of mahogany wood, the piece depicts the map of Guyana held by the symbolic hands of the credit union, embellished with the number 50 and 2 jaguars. Winslow Craig says he is delighted to make the contribution to the government and people of Guyana.
The credit union approached me and they wanted to make a contribution towards this 50th independence anniversary, and they commissioned me to do a piece that would represent their support or their contribution towards all of this 50 years that Guyana has been an independent nation.
Minister within the Ministry of Education, Nicolette Henry, who received the sculpture on behalf of the National Art Gallery, recognized the credit union for their contributions made to the country over the past 50 years.
The Guyana Public Service Credit Union has grown considerably over 52 years it has been in existence, and it is believed to be the country's single largest credit union. It stands out as a symbol of distinction to the cooperative sector.
The piece of art will now be added to the archives of the National Art Gallery, Castellani House, and is available for public viewing. For the Government News Brief, I'm Tiffany Rojas.
The Ministry of Public Infrastructure advises the general public to take all necessary precautions during the spring tides period of June 1 to 9, 2016. The areas that are particularly susceptible to flooding from storm surges, which may induce overtopping of sea and river defense structures, are areas along the Pomeroon River banks, Wakenham and Leg One Islands, West Coast Demerara, West Bank Demerara, East Bank Essequibo, and the lower East Coast Demerara. The highest tides are expected to be on Sunday, June 5, 2016 at 3:40 a.m. at the height of 3.22 meters, and Monday, June 6, 2016 at 4:25 a.m. at the height of 3.20 meters. All persons residing along the river banks and low-lying coastal areas are advised to take all the necessary precautions against possible flooding. Precautions should also be taken by all mariners, including those operating fishing vessels and larger vessels. Use of beaches and foreshore areas for recreational purposes during this period is not advised. The revision of the Amerindian Act is critical to addressing Amerindian land rights. Here are the details.
The Ministry of Indigenous Peoples Affairs is in the process of consulting with stakeholders on the revision of the Amerindian Act of 2006. Minister of Indigenous Peoples Affairs, Sidney Allicock, says that there are many deficiencies in the Act, especially in the area of land rights.
FPIC plays a great part in this. Only yesterday we had a meeting with the South Rupununi Indigenous Group, and that was one of the groups that is helping in coming up with if we are going to review, amend, to amend, because we believe some of the things could be easily amended.
Minister Allicock explained that the issue of free, prior, and informed consent, FPIC, which is enshrined in the Act, was ignored over the years. This, he noted, is one of the areas of focus during the consultations.
If you understand FPIC, it is not an easy thing within the 212 communities to do within this short period of time. So it's a work in progress.
Allicock noted that while the process should have been at a more advanced level, government is keen on involving all the indigenous peoples and their representatives. The Amerindian Act of 2006 was intended to protect the fundamental rights and freedoms of the indigenous peoples, including the right to life, liberty, expression, movement, and the protection from slavery and forced labor, culture, and tradition. Renetta LaFleur for the Government News Brief.
Reintegrating sports into schools as a timetabled subject will have great benefits to the student population. Details in this report.
The Minister explained that to fully integrate sports, it will require recruitment, training, and placing of technical persons where necessary. That process will take approximately 1.5 years more.
As you know, prior to 2015, Youth, Sports and Culture was a standalone ministry, separate from education. now the two are integrated. And so as we integrate the two areas, that in itself is one of the measures to ensure that there's a seamless networking and transition of sport into schools. It's much more long-term as against a very short-term approach and mechanism.
A program as delicate as reintegrating sports requires it to be well thought out, the minister says.
Ensuring that sport is integrated into school requires a holistic approach. You have to look at the whole curriculum and decide how you're going to reorganize it to integrate sports. You know, you just don't wake up in the morning and decide that sport will be part of it. It's a process. And having sport fully integrated into the curriculum is what will be the outcome.
According to the minister, the reintroduction of sports into the schools will be the foundation to propel Guyanese to excel at local and international levels. Additionally, research shows that sports in the school system leads to weight control, problem-solving skills, boosting self-esteem, social competence, and enhanced academic achievement. Sports can also lead to reduced rates of juvenile arrests, teenage pregnancies, and school dropout. For the Government News Brief, Isaiah Braffett.
That concludes today's edition of the Government News Brief. The details of these and other stories can be found on GINA's website. We do encourage you to subscribe to our website and YouTube channel. You can also like and follow us on Facebook to be kept abreast of the new developments. Do join us again tomorrow for another edition of the Government News Brief. Thank you for watching.